Generally, when you buy precons, the commander on the front of the precon is the commander that you play. And that commander is Kotis Sibsig Champion. But in this instance, I'm going to recommend that you do not play that card. And the card that you're going to play is Tevil, the Balanced Scale. Nothing against Kotis, but he's just not as good as what Tevil is. Tevil reads Flying. Whenever Tevil attacks, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Now, when we look at what this does, as this attacks, we mill 3 cards, which means 3 cards are going directly into our graveyard, which is important because these cards over here, if we happen to mill a land or we have another land in our graveyard, this will then re-enter the battlefield tapped, leave our graveyard, and then we create a 2/2 zombie druid token, keeping in mind that there are a lot of cards inside this deck similar to this Ob Nixilis over here that has a landfall ability. So whenever land enters the battlefield, we get to do something cool. So the reason being, this is all amazing because Tevil by itself single-handedly allows the entire deck to function, puts power on the board, puts lands into play, puts cards in our graveyard, and the cards inside our graveyard inside this deck act like our second hand, as opposed to Kotis, which, not for nothing, Kotis isn't bad. Once during each of our turns, we're going to be able to cast a creature spell from our graveyard, but the only benefit says that whenever one or more creatures we control enter, we're then going to be able to put 2+1/+ encounters on Kotis, which, you know, Kotis turned to a 5/5, and then a 7/7, and then a 9/9. But Kotis doesn't have Menace, doesn't have Trample, doesn't have Flying, doesn't have Unblockable. So what are we really doing with the amount of damage that Kotis is gaining? And I have a solution for that. We'll go over that later in the video. But the amount of value that we get from Tevis just completely, like, dude, do not play with Kotis as the commander of this precon unless you just really want to. If you're playing to win and you want to maximize your fun, play as Tevil, or else somebody might appear in your life. And so remember that as Tevil attacks, we're milling 3 cards, which can put cards into our graveyard. We're getting a land, creating a token. Now, as cards enter the graveyard, you're going to notice in your precon, cards generally have enter the battlefield abilities. This one allows us to return a card from our graveyard to our hand. This one allows us to destroy a creature. This one allows us to put a land into play. Now, like I said earlier, our graveyard acts like our secondary hand because inside this deck, there are a lot of cards that allow us to get cards out of our graveyard and either back into our hand and onto the battlefield, like the cards Phyrexian Reclamation, Living Death, and Victimize. But most importantly, the commander that we pulled off to the side, which was Kotis. Kotis allows us to play creatures from our graveyard. He does not put cards directly into our graveyard, but when we mill them with our new commander, the commander that we're playing, that you should be playing, not Kotis, play Tevil. Kotis is going to allow us to get those creatures, and so that we get the opportunity to replay this creature to destroy something. We get the opportunity to get a card. We get the opportunity to get another land into play. This deck even has Meren of Clan Nel Toth, which is my first ever commander, might I add, which says at the beginning of your end step, choose a creature card in your graveyard. If that card's mana value is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return to the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. Whenever another creature you control dies, you get experience counter. So basically, Meren just really enables your ability to reuse cards over and over again. These cards are fantastic, but they are only good if you have cards in your graveyard. So play Tevil as your commander so you can reuse and abuse the abilities that these cards have. Inside this deck, there are 2 cards that we're going to call Sacrifice Outlets. Sacrifice Outlets are cards that are going to allow us to sacrifice our own creatures. The reason these cards are pivotal to you experiencing success with this deck is because of what we just talked about previously. Let's say I have the Woe Strider in play. let's say I have Kotis in play because the Tevil trigger put Noxious Gear Hulk into our graveyard. Let's say I was able to get Noxious Gear Hulk back onto the battlefield with Kotis. What if I want to reuse this ability again? I could then sacrifice the Noxious Gear Hulk to the Woe Strider, killing it, putting this back into our graveyard so that during my next turn, I could use Kotis' ability to exile 3 cards and then cast the Noxious Gear Hulk again so that I get to destroy another creature, which means that I could then sacrifice the Gear Hulk to the Woe Strider again, so on and so forth, recasting this during the next turn. And this can happen continuously over and over again. Now, it just doesn't have to be a Noxious Gear Hulk. You could also get things back with a Timeless Witness. You can draw cards with Disciple of Volus. You can exile cards with the Amphib Mutineer. Now, also keep in mind that inside this deck, we are creating zombie druid tokens because we are using Tevil as our commander. And the reason that's important is because the zombie druid we create is a zombie. And inside this precon, we have a card called Gravecrawler. Gravecrawler says you may cast this card from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. And wow, it's almost like the synergy with Tevil is amazing. You should play Tevil as your commander because we create zombie druids when lands enter the battlefield from our graveyard or when anything leaves the graveyard. So we can basically have this Gravecrawler over here, almost like it was meant for Tevil to be the commander for this deck. It should have been the face cover commander, because we could sacrifice the Gravecrawler to the Woe Strider, right? We could then scry 1 because we did that, and then I can pay a black mana to replay this because I have a zombie in play, and because this left the graveyard, I can then create a zombie druid, which means that I can then sacrifice the Gravecrawler again, which then I can then pay the mana to cast a Gravecrawler, which is then going to create a zombie druid. And then I can do this again and then create another zombie druid over and over and over again. I'm telling you, play Tevil as the commander because this deck functions infinitely better with this card than it would with anything else. Now, this deck is a graveyard deck, which means you need to be aware that the card Rest in Peace exists. Rest in Peace will single-handedly destroy any opportunity that you have of winning with this deck. That is just like they play that and you lose. That's just it. It's really as easy as that. So make sure that when you're playing your games of Magic, you're playing a graveyard deck, not even just this deck, any graveyard deck. If somebody is playing the color white, you need to make sure that you target that player. Because if they're running Rest in Peace or cards like Rest in Peace inside their deck, you lose. Now, because your opponents are not playing the card Rest in Peace, when we play cards like Lord of Extinction, this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in all graveyards. This is a huge creature at times. This is basically the same thing. This is basically the same thing. So each of these creatures have extremely high power. And the reason that's important is because inside this precon, there is Jarad, the Golgari Lich Lord. Dude, I love this card. We can pay 3 mana to sacrifice another creature, and then it says each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. You will win the majority of the games that you win with this deck because of Jarad. If you have this being a 25-25 or a 20-20, like it generally is when you play that card, and then you just sacrifice it to Jarad, and each of your opponents take 20 damage, yeah, chances are you're going to win a lot of games. So I picked these creatures over here in particular because they tend to have high power. And luckily enough, Kotis might also be another card that will have high power that you could also sacrifice to Jarad to just eliminate people from the game and just end the game on the spot. So Jarad is a card that you need to keep an eye on because this is a win condition inside this deck. Now, in the end, I always recommend that you play test your commander decks, which means that you're drawing 7 cards and you're pretending like you're playing against people so you can see the combos, you can understand the lines of play, you can understand the cards inside the deck so that you can experience the most success when you go out and play games of Commander. And make sure that when you're playtesting as Tevil. I mean, you can go ahead and try to play the other Commander if you want, but what you're gonna notice is it's gonna play so much better when you use Tevil as your Commander. So if you like this video, remember to like this video and subscribe, because you do this for every precon when it releases. And if you want to challenge me to a game of 1v1 Commander, let me know in the comment section below, or you can join the Discord, and then inside the Discord there is a challenge tab where you can challenge me over there and you can get a video on this channel. Okay, always remember, everybody, eat healthy, okay, work out every single day. Most important, you guys gotta remember to believe in yourself. All right, have fun playing as Tevil as your Commander. All right, peace out, people.